let the grace descend on me so that I can come to relish it as much possible. I say as much possible because nobody can ever say I have relished Bhagavatam fully. Even Mahatmas, even Acharya Purushas, even the great descents of divinity, whom we celebrate as the Sampradaya Stapaka Charya. Sampradaya means tradition, like Advaita tradition, Vishishtadvaita tradition, Dvaita tradition, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, etc. There's tradition. Stapaka means establish. Acharya means teachers or masters. So even those who have established traditions, those great masters themselves are very, very afraid to say that I have explored Bhagavatam fully. Bhakti is like in the endless ocean of nectar. Even jnana, we can say there is an end point. The Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita. The moment you start seeing divinity everywhere and you realize that divinity alone exists, nothing else, nobody else, here, there, everywhere, then thereafter, now, all the time, then that's the culmination of jnana. Likewise, we cannot say a culmination for bhakti or divine love because love is endless. Once we attain jnana and you see the oneness, as I keep repeating these wonderful words of a great poet, his name is Rabindranath Tagore. He has the name of Thakurji as his surname. Thakur, Tagore, all that are same. Thakur. And our Rabindranath Tagore has written a wonderful collection of poems, which is called Gitanjali. And there he brings in a beautiful contemporary spirituality in his various poems. One of the most, a phrase which never leaves my mind is a phrase which says, to see the touch of one in the play of many, you see. That's a lovely poetic way of looking at the aspiration for jnana. Jnana means seeing the touch of one in the play of many and seeing the one alone, you see. Aspiration for jnana or the path towards wisdom is aspiring or striving to see the touch of one in the play of many. And the actual culmination of this great path of jnana is seeing that one alone, nothing else, nobody else. So jnana comes to a conclusion. There is nothing beyond that. We have attained, can I use the word, ceilingless ceiling of jnana. But when it comes to bhakti, it's a different story altogether. Many of you sing abhangs. Many of you have heard the songs of Mahatmas. A Mahatma steeped in Bhagavata Dharma never asked for moksha. In fact, Mahatmas like Tukaram Maharaj, or Mahatmas like our Guru Maharaj, Sri Sri Anna, all of them pray for more and more bhakti, more and more seva. Our Andal says, I don't even want moksha. I want to keep serving you. Ettraikum ஏழ் பிறவிக்கும் உந்தன்னோடு உற்றோமே ஆவோம் உமக்கே நாம் ஆட்செய்வோம் மற்ற இனம் காமங்கள் மாற்றேலோர் என்பாவா. What I am praying for, Bhagavan, is for more and more births to come as I keep, coming back in the next birth, next to next birth, etc. I want to serve you alone. I want to only serve you alone. Umakke, that's the sweetness of bhakti. It does not even want to escape. And there was this Western devotee of a great Mahatma. I'm just telling you these because the contemporary interpretation of such wonderful, timeless literature of bhakti or shastra of bhakti like Tirupavai, even to this day, people have interpreted it beautifully. This is a devotee or a disciple of a great Mahatma, Yogi Ram Surat Kumar. He was basically a Westerner. And when a reporter was asking him a question, you talk about devotion to your guru. And as per your tradition, as per your path, what is the way for freedom? You see, what is the way for transcendence or freedom? He very beautifully answered, in our path there is no freedom, only eternal joyous slavery to our beloved master. Huh? That's what a bhakta is. That's what a true devotee who is filled with love is. And that's the beauty of prema, that's the beauty of Bhagavata Dharma, that's the beauty of bhakti. And that's why Mahatma Singh, Kaya Ichi Si Vaikunta. Why do I actually aspire for Vaikunta when I can keep coming back to Pandharpur with symbols in my hand, with a wonderful tinklet in my feet, on my feet, and with a tambura slung across my shoulder, and constantly the divine name Ram Krishna Hari coming from my lips. Who wants Vaikunta? Karastitepi Vaikunte. Nama Sankirtana Lolupaha. Even though Vaikunta was at hand, literally, our Namdev Maharaj decided to come back because he thinks Vaikuntapati, our Panduranga is in Pandharpur. What is my business in Vaikunta when Vaikuntapati is in Pandharpur? You see, that's our sampradaya. When you come to our ashram, and when you come to Bhagavata Bhavanam and see our Thakurji and Madhuri Sakhi, our Sampradaya's uniquenesses, for me, this is Krishna. I am seeing him right now. And I'm seeing Radha Devi right now. And where Krishna is Vrindavan for me. You see, that's all. Bhakti is there in Bhava only. And even if we don't have Bhava in our heart, Putana came to Vrindavan. What Bhava she had? Bhagavan, of course, out of his tremendous love, sent her to Vaikunta. But then there were this wonderful Gopas and Gopis who really made their life fruitful because of the love they had for Krishna. Vaikunta also we may get. But love and prema for Krishna in this life is even more rare, isn't it? That's the beauty of prema. And that is the beauty of devotion and love. And love knows no boundaries, or love knows no limits. Love knows no endpoint. It is continuous. It's always. That's why Mahatmas keep coming back again and again. Epiravi vaithal enna enakena kavalai nappinai nadan tunai irukka. Our Swamiji says, why do I care of my next Janma? Let it be any Janma. It may not be even human. Why? Because my Radha Kanta, my Thakurji is in my side. So he will never forsake me. Let me have any Janma. He will find a way for me to connect back to him. See, each of you are connected to our Thakurji, to our Guruji. Don't think it's an accident of fate. Everything has a reason. Unless you have some connection in the earlier Janmas, this Vasana is very rare to come by. You see. It's not easy to get a Vasana for spirituality, first of all. To even ponder about something beyond itself takes tremendous Vasana. Because we are now in times where everything is about utility. Everything is about what use it's it to me. And that use is also immediate use. And our Swamiji used to say, we don't look beyond the clouds in the sky, because we just want to check whether we need to take our umbrella or not. We don't see beyond the clouds. We don't see the vast expanse of skies. These numerous stars which is dispersed all over the space. And space itself is it infinite? Is it finite? Is it measurable? Is it immeasurable? Is it eternal? Was it created? All that, who will ponder on? You see, for that you need tremendous background of such spirituality in earlier Janmas or in this Janma, whatever. I know many were drawn to this wonderful satsanga now, and it's not by accident, is what I'm saying. It is clearly you are continuing a journey which possibly you have treaded earlier. You are continuing that journey. And thankfully, our Guru Maharaj, thankfully, our Thakurji is there for us to help us, guide us in this wonderful journey, you see. And that's the beauty of this satsanga. And slowly all of you have gravitated towards this place. And many Mahatmas have repeatedly said it is not something which is accidental. It is a divine force which brings us all together, especially when it comes to things like Bhagavatam, Bhakti, Satsanga, etc. So that's the beauty of us coming together every week or every alternate week to discuss, to think about, to mull over these wonderful Rasomaya Bhagavata Dharma, to think about greater things like moksha or guru or satsanga or this absolute reality, etc. itself is rare. But to actually transcend even that, to relish for the sake of relishing the rasa of Bhagavatam is rarer still. And that's the fortune you have been bestowed with. And obviously we have some connection to it. Otherwise, we won't get a liking or a taste for all this. So let us prostrate to our Guru and our beloved Thakurji for bestowing the taste and letting us continue in this joyful journey of Srimad Bhagavatam. And today, we thought we'll take the first sloka of a stuti, which some of you have by-hearted, most of you have read, all of you have heard about. It is Bhishma Stuti. And during the twilight of his life, Bhishmacharya, whose life is so inspiring, it's a life filled with sacrifice, life of dharma, life of penance, life of brahmacharya, name it. Our Guru Maharaj used to call him as the real Bharata Ratna, somebody who inspires, who gave up his life for the sake of his country, for the sake of his subjects, who gave up small comforts of life just for the sake of the kingdom and for the sake of the lineage. Such a great Mahatma he is, a Yogishwara. And our Bhishmacharya, in the twilight of his life, after seeing 18 days of war between his own children, Kauravas, Pandavas, all are his own family, his own grandchildren. He saw them fight with each other. Must have been a very heart-wrenching battle for him. He had a very rough exterior posture as a Kshatriya, a warrior class. Obviously, they won't look very, what do you say it? They won't look very fine or gentle or nalinam, etc. They are warriors now. And their voice would be a booming voice. And their stature, they'll walk like a mad elephant. And their face would be actually a scene of tremendous depth and majesty. Generally, you don't expect such a face, such a voice, such a demeanor to actually have bhakti buried in it. Na? But here is our Bhishmacharya who had tremendous love for Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And that is revealed in those wonderful 11 verses. Our Mahabharatam has a stavam by our Bhishmacharya called Bhishma Stavarajan. And our Bhagavatam has shown it in a very beautiful, in a very rasomaya way. I'm going to just take 1/4 of a sloka to show you that Bhagavatam, when it says slokartam, shloka padam va, even if you take one shloka, half a shloka, or 1/4 of a shloka, it has tremendous rasa and divinity in it. Just to underline that statement, sloka padam, padam means 1/4. You see, padam in most of the Indian language also means legs. Na? And in Tamil, you see, it's so interesting. I see most of you can understand Tamil. The padam for Tamil is kal. And when you say padam, padas, you say kalgal or kalgal. And also, in Sanskritam, padam means 1/4. In Tamil also, half is padi, 1/4 is kal. You see? And it is because the whole fraction is modeled with the human body. That's the beauty of, that's the wholeness and beauty in all Indian language. Each language has its beauty. English has its own beauty. I'm talking about the Indian language's beauty. So here, half of our body is the 2 legs and the rest of the half is the trunk and above, isn't it? So since half is 2 legs, 1 leg is 1/4. Na? So Padam becomes 1/4. In Tamil, Kal becomes 1/4. And every word in most of the Indian languages has a deeper meaning of that word itself. So sloka Padam means 1/4 of a sloka. And 1/4 of our Bhishma sloka, it starts with incredible supplication. Iti mati rupa kalpita vitrishna bhagavati satvata pungave vibhumi swasukhamupagate kvachit vihartum prakritimupe bhava pravagaha. Here our Bhishmacharya, Sri Bhishmacharya, is after telling Sahasranama, after rendering Sahasranama to our Yudhishthira in the presence of Bhagavan, and after telling all dharma, generally people can talk dharma, but he walked the dharma and then only talked about dharma. And such was his wonderful life of taintless life, except for, people manage to find defects even in his life. It's not a defect, it's just a debatable point that he should have stopped the outrage which was happening in the Asat Sabha when all the 5 Pandavas and Draupadi were insulted and all that. But it's just, you have to really, apply castor oil to your eyes and take a magnifying glass to find a minuscule defect in his life. And he is human, obviously. So, such a wonderful, taintless person, our Bhishmacharya, at the twilight of his life, is now finally offering his all to Bhagavan and praying for something. So that's the whole wonderful Bhishma Stuti is Antima Smaranam of Bhagavan, Antima Darshanam of Bhagavan, Antima Nama Kirtanam of Bhagavan. So in that, very beautifully, I will read out our Sridhariyam. Even if you don't understand Sanskritam, doesn't matter. As a samskara, we can keep listening. Our Sridhara Swami says, Paramapala Rupam Sri Krishne Ratim Prartayitum Pratamam Svakritam Marpayati. Generally, when we go and do some prarthana in temples also, you don't go empty-handed. You have to offer something to pray for something. And generally we take fruits or we take tulsi or flowers or something. Or at least we offer our words of praise to Bhagavan and we ask for grace, blessings, etc. So here our Sridhara Swami, you all know Sridhara Swami by now, a great commentator of Bhagavatam. In that he says, Parama Phala Rupa. The greatest fruit of human existence, as per our Bhagavatam, is Parama Phala Rupa. And as per the general philosophy of our Sanatana Dharma and the general philosophy of psychology, what do you think would be the highest purpose of human existence? If you have read Abraham Maslow and the rest, they called it as self-actualization. And Jung came in and he added something even more to that, and he said self-transcendence. And our philosophy in Sanatana Dharma made it complete by saying it is moksha, absolute freedom. Absolute freedom from anything which is not self is called, is actually the grandest fruit of human existence. But Bhagavatam transcended even self-transcendence to say Parama Phala Rupam Sri Krishna Rati. The greatest fruit or the grandest fruit of human existence is Krishna Rati. This tremendous, uncontrollable, obstacle-free, causeless gushing of love towards Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the Paramapala Rupam Sri Krishna Ratim. And that he is actually praying for Krishna to bestow. Prarthayitum. And to get something from Krishna, can you imagine this? We are actually begging Krishna. to actually bestow us with the love for Krishna. Generally, we go and tell a person, I love you so much, so give me this. That's the general begging we do in this world. Na? Whether it is our parents or friends, etc. Don't I love you so much? Please give me something, is what we say. But here he is begging for love for Krishna. And why? Because it is the Parama Pala. So the Parama Pala Rupa is Krishna Rati. And that can be got only by praying and begging our Bhagavan himself to bestow. And for that, to follow the normal protocol or the normal convention of the world, you have to give something, na, to ask for something. So what he did, Svakritam Arpayati. You see, love is not a joke, na. True love is can only be divine. That's my standard. I know you may beg to differ, but believe me, after a few decades, you will come close to agreeing with me. The true love can only be divine. Any other love which is in a human plane is love. Of course, we respect that, but it is no way compared to the love a guru or Bhagavan has for us, or vice versa. So here, the true love can be essentially divine, and love is not a joke. It has a tremendous cost. Everything comes with a cost. The cost of love is absolute surrender, including our ego, to the feet of Bhagavan. That's the expense we should bear to gain what is called as love. Love comes with a heavy cost. The cost is you give up all. And the all is nothing but ahankara, mamakara, a sense of I and mine. So whatever Bhishmacharya said, Svakritam Arpayati, whatever he had done the whole life, he completely gave everything to Bhagavan, lock, stock and barrel. And he started his stuti by saying, Iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. Iti. What does iti means? Iti nana dharmadhyupayehi. He completely did sarva dharman parityajya. The various dharma he did. And the dharmas he did as Krishnarpanam only. Even the smallest thing Bhishmacharya did right from his youngest age to the day he's seeing Bhagavan and doing the stuti. Bhishmacharya did everything as Krishnarpanam, Karma Yoga only. And because of that Karma Yoga, Bhagavan would have been pleased and he would have got some punyana. That also he gave it back to Bhagavan, saying that iti means these. What he actually give? He actually gave this way. See, iti means this way. What did he actually give? He offered all the dharma which was accrued over decades and decades of his taintless life. And he used this dharma and he offered the dharma, and he offered the dharma as Krishna, offered the dharma as Krishna Prityartham. He gave it to Krishna. And hence, his mind became purer and purer and purer and purer over time. And he's saying, iti matihi. This mind of mine, mati means mind. The feminine term for mind is mati. And so he's saying, this mind of mine, which has been purified because I led a life of purest of all dharma. Not even 1 second of my life was wasted in adharma or diverted by adharma. And such a taintless life I have led, every second purposeful life. And hence, this various dharmas I have done, which I have done as Krishnarpanam. Hence, my mind has become pure. And that mind which is ultra purified by dharma, I actually samarpita. Upakalpita means samarpanam. I offer it to you, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. That is just 1/4 of his 11 slokas. Iti matihi upakalpita. And how is this mati? Vitrishna. Vitrishna means nishkama. This mind has completely attained the state of tranquility. It's absolutely silent, quiet. And that mind is the fit mind to be offered to Krishna. And so he's saying, this mind, this way, the mind, or this mind. Which mind? The mind which has been purified by dharma, because every act I did was Krishnarpanam, Krishnarpanam, Krishnarpanam. There was not a tinge of me and mine in any of my activities I did. So the mind is so pure, so crystal clear, tranquil, silent. And that mind, iti matihi, which is now collected, which is now silent, which is now in the state of dynamic silence, upakalpita. Upakalpita means samarpita. Is been offered to you. It has been offered to you, Bhagavan. And what is the state of this mind? Vitrishna, which means nishkama. That's what it is. There are wonderful commentators who is looking at this Bhishmacharya's heart. And you all know in Bhishma Stuti, Bhishmacharya in his penultimate sloka, the 10th sloka, is going to remember the gopis, right? Lalita Gati Vilasa, Valguhasa, Pranaya Nirikshana, Kalpitoru Mana. And he is going to remember that Krishna, you showed a very unique path to gopis, where you gave the result and then asked them to write an exam. You see, something like that. You appeared before them and you started showering your love towards them, and then they started doing bhakti. What is this? A unique path you have shown. And he remembers gopis. Now, so one of these commentators gave a very great rasa. And since we have been together for so many weeks, I thought I will share that rasa. Generally, we don't tell these rasas, etc. in public Bhagavatam. Generally, the Bhagavatam we tell for public is different. Bhagavatam which we discuss among ourselves is totally different. Because public won't understand. Public generally are the people who are obsessed with the why question. It's absolutely a waste question. Don't waste your head with whys when it comes to rasam. When it comes to science, when it comes to philosophy, why may work. When it comes to rasa, why becomes a headache. You see? And that is the reason why we don't tell all these to public. But for our family members, when we are sitting in a locked room, we can discuss all that with our heart open. So here, a Mahatma, his name is Vishwanatha Chakravarti, he very beautifully gives a new rasa to this. Bhishmacharya is a Parama Brahmachari, right? He is a Brahmachari all his life. And it seems, during the time of his death, he beckoned to Krishna to come close. Krishna came close to Bhishmacharya. Bhishmacharya said, Krishna, I have a daughter. Krishna got a shock of his life. He said, you are Naishtika Brahmachari, you have a daughter. Yes, yes, I have a daughter. And she has come of a marriageable age right now. And she has come to of a marriageable age. And now I was looking for the right person to get her married. And since I'm about to leave my daughter out here and I'm going to go for my abode, I need to take care of her. Na? You are the right person. You are the right groom for my daughter. And Krishna looked here and there and said, who is your daughter? Where is your daughter? Bhishmacharya smiled, pointed to his heart and said, my mind. Her name is called Mati. Generally, in Tamil or in our Indian languages, Vanmati or Sumati or Indumati is generally the name of girls. Na? So here our Bhishmacharya said, my daughter's name is Mati. And she has come of a perfect marriageable age because Vitrishna. What is the quality of this mind? In those days, people used to marry off their children and all that, their daughters. And generally those days the culture was, they don't actually freely relate or emote or be acquainted with the outside people much, because it was a very traditional society. And generally, these daughters, they see their groom only after the elders actually arrange and everything is concluded already. Here, our Bhishmacharya said, I have controlled my mind so much that this little daughter of mine had never outstepped the home, you see. And she has never seen any other Purusha. I have constantly told her, one day I'm going to marry you off to Krishna. One day I'm going to marry you off to Krishna, right from her childhood. And so she has constantly been waiting for the day that she will hold the hand of Krishna. And I have taken care of her till now. As a father, I have to take care of her. But now I'm going to leave this world. And the place where I am going, she won't be allowed inside, except if she becomes your consort, then she is allowed there. I am going to a place where even mind cannot come close, you see. So my little daughter called Mati needs to be wedded to you, Krishna. You please accept her as your consort. And she is fit to be your consort because she has never desired any other Purusha, Hitrishna. She has never known any other Purusha, Hitrishna. Purusha means any other person. She has never coveted any other Purusha, Hitrishna. And so, you please take my daughter in. When the mind is wedded to Bhagavan, it is called Jivan Mukti. When the mind is wedded to Bhagavan, it is called Moksha. Now you see the picture, the rasa, the philosophy in perfect unison. This little daughter called Mati knew no other person because our Bhishmacharya did not do anything for himself. Everything he did was Krishna Prithiyartham. So the mind was constantly engaged only in Krishna. He took care of the family, Krishna Prithiyartham. He took care of Pandu's children, Krishna Prithiyartham. Took care of Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Krishna Prithiyartham. He took care of even Kauravas, Krishna Prithiyartham. Now he is fighting for Kauravas, Krishna Prithiyartham. So his mind, which is his daughter called Mati, knew nothing or nobody except for Bhagavan Sri Krishna because of Karma Yoga. Because of all the karma was directed for Krishna, it was the fruit of the karma was offered to Krishna. Hence, this little daughter of our Bhishmacharya called Mati, she was offered in marriage to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. The marriage hall is unfortunately a place near Kurukshetra. Generally, battleground has become a marriage hall. Some places, unfortunately, marriage hall becomes a battleground now. Here it is opposite. The battleground became a marriage hall. And his little daughter, nobody knew that. Nobody ever knew what was the mind of Bhishmacharya. It is called Gambhiryam. Gambhiryam means a very deep person. As a Kshatriya, people should never ever guess what you are thinking. That's a sign of a king. That's how you retain your majesty. And that's why Ramachandra Prabhu is Samudraiva Gambhirya. See? Like a deep ocean, his mind is very deep. One cannot understand Ramachandra Prabhu's thoughts. What is he thinking? What is his conclusion? What is his opinion? Nobody would know. Likewise, our Bhishmacharya was a Yogishwara. He had a very deep mind. So nobody understood or saw the mind of Bhishmacharya. And hence, his daughter was not seen by any other Purusha. This daughter didn't see any other Purusha, let it be there, one side. But no Purusha could see his daughter because of the depth of his majesty, the depth of his mind. He was a very deep person. That's why, Iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. Our Bhishmacharya is saying that wonderful fortune our Janaka Maharaja had by Karma Yoga, that wonderful fortune with Bhishmaka Raja had by offering his daughter to you, bestow me the same fortune because I am also Bhishma only. Na? You add a ka there, in Sanskrita, Putri, Putrika, Bala, Balaka. So the ka is added for a couple of reasons. That's a different issue, but its equivalence is there. Ka is added as an equivalent is one interpretation, and it limits something is the second interpretation. But Bhishmaka, one and the same. Na? Like Bhishmaka offered his daughter to you, I am offering. And for Bhishmaka's daughter, after he mentally offered, you had to fight a battle and then win her. And here I am offering the mind as the daughter to you after the battle is over. So don't worry, no more battles for you. Just accept her directly. Iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. And our Bhishmacharya says, I am offering my little girl to you. She has always thought only about you. She knows nothing else. And upakalpita vitrishna. Here comes the beauty with the language. In Sanskritam, you have upakalpita, dirgham, na, vitrishna. Generally, you can separate it as or split it as upakalpita avitrishna. You see? Try saying it together. Upakalpita vitrishna. Same. Upakalpita vitrishna. Same. You can add an A towards avitrishna, towards vitrishna, and it will still the sloka lends itself to both these ways of splitting. Avitrishna means no tripti at all, not satiated at all. My mind, my daughter, who is never satisfied looking at you or being with you, is now wanting to marry. You see how an opposite meaning brings the same bhava there? Vitrishna means she is now satisfied, she is now completely without any kama or desires for anything worldly. So the very purpose of the mind to be free from desire is to desire Krishna. That's why our one of the 12 Alvars, for those who are listening for the first time, check it up. His name is Nammalvar. His whole Swarupa is that of a Jivan Mukta or a Jnani. Jivan Mukta is a wrong usage. Vaishnavas won't like it. He was a Jnani of the highest order. And his Swarupa, his nature was Krishna Trishna. Tremendous thirst, tremendous covetousness towards Krishna is his Swarupa, being a Jnani. Because that's how a Jnani is defined in our terms. Okay. If we want the tumbler to be emptied, I have a glass with me. Why do I have to empty a glass? So that I can fill it with milk and drink. No? If it already has some mud in it, how can I offer milk with a soiled tumbler? So the whole part of Vitrishna means desire free, taint free, or dirt free is to fill it with milk. Pal, Inga Gopal. Okay. So to fill that wonderful vessel with milk, we want it to be absolutely clean. And a vessel being clean is not an end in itself. It is a means for the vessel to be prepared so that you can fill some wonderful sweet milk in it. So the entire, why do we say minimize the desires in the mind, etc.? So that our desire for Krishna can be complete only when we have not even an iota of desire for anything else. Other deities, I don't know. But for Krishna, unless we desire him alone, without even an iota of desire elsewhere, our love towards Krishna is not complete, you see. And that is the reason why we say, iti matihi upakalpita avitrishna, opposite meaning, which means I am not satisfied at all. The mind which is not satisfied at all. And the other meaning is the mind which is totally satisfied and has no desires. Both, see the interpretation, alda rasa. That's rasa. He says avitrishna means right from the time Krishna I was seeing you, the mind ran towards you. I keep telling my daughter, my little mind daughter, Arey, you have seen Krishna, no, why do you worry? She says, no, the more I see, more I want to see. You see? And so, avitrishna, that mind which is not at all satisfied with you, wants to eternally reside with you. And I am a Yogishwara. The moment a father gives a daughter in marriage to such a divine person, no longer the child will come back to the father. Man. She will start living with her husband forever. And now our Bhishmacharya is going to attain moksha and he is not going to have the sambandha of mind at all. the mind has become one with Krishna, is ready for moksha. So, iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. You see, that's how beautiful this quarter of the verse is. I've told you only 1/4 of the various rasas in it. The yogic rasas I will give you because the Yogishwarana. I will give you a hint. We will continue that in our next session. Generally, as per our Purusa Shukta, which is one of the important part of our Vedas, it is there in all the 4 Vedas. It's called Purusa Shukta. Generally, if you have gone to a very Vedic puja, they would recite this verse to do the puja, whether it is Abhishekam or whether it is consecration, etc. And Purusa Shukta, it is said simply. As per Purusa Shukta, it is said, the mind originates from the heart of Krishna. Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So now our Bhishmacharya, being a yogi, needs to send back all these mind, intellect, hands, feet, everything has to be sent back to where it came from. And the mind came from the heart of Krishna. Na? So he is sending his mind back to Krishna. You see, as a Yogishwara, he was doing that. And his duty has been made easy by Bhagavan himself coming right before him like a Purnami, Purna Chandra, like the full moon evening, our full moon twilight. Okay, it's actually Bhismashtami only, but still Purnami because Krishna was there. And so our Bhishmacharya offered his mind to the source, Krishna. Iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. So our Bhishmacharya joyfully offers his mind to Bhagavan and prays, saying that Krishna, the purpose of me leading such a pure, such a taintless life is for this moment. All my years, maybe 120 years or 140 years, I don't know. For 200 years I have lived. For this moment of my prayer, begging you to bless me with thirst, to bless me with love, to bless me with divine Krishna Rati. And I offer my mind, which is purified by all the dharma I lived, so that you can bless me with this tremendous love to your own feet. That's the essence of Vishnu Stuti. More of it, maybe a fortnight from now. We will explore Iti Matihi Upakalpita Vitrishna Yogikali, and there is more rasa in it. As I said, the Bhagavatam, people have added rasa or rasa or rasa. Each time our Swamiji tells us shlokas, interpretation, it's always new. And that's the beauty of Bhagavatam. You see, our path is so beautiful, isn't it? We relish all this, and that's our spirituality. And not sitting for some boring advice or boring stuff, etc. For us, dhyana becomes so easy. As I kept talking about Bhishmacharya, did he not see Bhishmacharya lying down? Krishna standing before him, Bhishmacharya trying to slowly get up to fold his hands towards Krishna, and Arjuna creating a small pillow with his arrows, and our Bhishmacharya with tears in his eyes, looking at Krishna with tremendous love and say, Krishna, iti matihi upakalpita vitrishna. This is not spirituality, this is not dhyanam. This is what is contemplation, this is what is prayer, this is what is religion for us. Samsara maya sukha vaidya. And we will see more and more of this relish in the fortnights to come. And once again, so happy to see about 26 of you along with me. Very beautifully relishing Bhagavatam as a day-to-day activity, and also finding time to come together as a family to live life, celebrate life. Yeah, everybody will have so much to do, work, etc. None of us are going to be spared any point of our time. Even when we become 80 years, there will always be work to fill the time. I'm so glad that we are able to understand that and allocate time for us to celebrate, relish life in form of relish in Bhagavatam. That's possible by Guru Kripa and Thakurji Kripa. We will see more and more of it as we go further. It's more for relishing And all these public won't understand. It's not for public. It is for our own private reserved relation in our heart. Satvatra Govinda Nama Sankirtanam Govinda Govinda Premamritam Yo Murali Ninadehi Sri Krishna Rupena Puravarsha Adhyapi Soyam Muralidharakyo Pushnati Premna Bhuvanam Saharsham. Sadguru Maharaj ki Jai. Radhe Radhe.